On the line, we have Tori, our good friend Joe DiGenova. He's our legal analyst and our good friend, but also right now a man who is sort of in the midst of this Benghazi story because he represents one of the so-called whistleblowers in this particular case. Good morning to you, Joe.
Good morning, Brian, and good morning, Tori.
Good morning, Joe. How are you?
We're feeling great. We're
Good.
feeling great. The truth is finally coming out because of these brave whistleblowers who came forward last week and destroyed the house of cards that Ambassador Pickering built with that incredibly awful report that they issued. That Accountability Review Board report, as I predicted, was nothing more than a cover-up. It was a house of cards. It was a Potemkin village. If you watched Ambassador Pickering over the weekend, he was defenseless, arrogant but defenseless. He didn't conduct an investigation. He conducted a seance.
Yeah, I mean, he did not even interview Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State.
He didn't interview Hillary Clinton. He didn't interview my client, Mark Thompson, who was in charge of the Op Center the very night, who demanded to know why the special group wasn't being deployed that night. He was cut out of all meetings that night and the days thereafter. Make no mistake about it. This is not a puzzle. This is not a complicated issue. This was an incident that was going to totally mess up the theme of the president's reelection, that Al-Qaeda was, that Osama bin Laden was dead and General Motors was alive. And here were Al-Qaeda-affiliated groups killing an American ambassador, 3 other individuals, Son Smith, Tyrone Woods, Glenn Doherty, and they just couldn't let it happen. And so the cover-up began within minutes of the attack, and they lied to the American people and have continued to lie from the podium of the White House and the podium of the State Department. This guy, who's now the spokesperson at the State Department, guy Ventrell, I call him the new Baghdad Bob. He is so bad, so unbelievably unbelievable. And Jay Carney has become a mannequin. This is pathetic. He's like a stick figure, just one lie after another, done in this cardboard fashion.
You know what? I want to talk about that just a moment, and Tori and I are going to pick this up in just a moment. But we now know that many of the things that Jay Carney has said from the White House press room podium are simply not true. And he came out on Friday after these 12 talking point revisions became publicly known. And it became very clear that the White House and State Department were actively involved in directing the CIA to change the talking points. He came out late in the afternoon, because they had to get their story straight, held a press briefing, and stuck by the story.
Yeah, because they have to. You see, this is now an administration that is in death throes. This is now catching up to them. By the way, where's the president? We still don't have an hour-by-hour recitation of what he did the night of the attack. And I repeat this right now, and they will never contradict it. They can't put it out because he went to sleep. He didn't stay up throughout the night. Where's the picture of him sitting in the special situation room looking at the cameras and the live feed from Benghazi? It doesn't exist because he was asleep. And by the way, this Accountability Review Board that Ambassador Pickering was out lying to the American people about over the weekend, this is fascinating. This is supposed to be a big deal, investigation. No stenographer, no transcripts. Nobody's allowed to read the notes that were taken. This is unbelievable. This was not a report. It was an absolute cover-up, designed to be a cover-up from day one. And when all was said and done, the one thing they can't get away with is they never interviewed the Secretary of State,
so
the
Joe,
central figure.
Joe, 2 things struck me. This whole thing about no transcript, no record, it's truly unbelievable. What's the rationale so far given for why he didn't interview the Secretary of State? And going forward, what's the likelihood that we're going to see her, now a private citizen, have to testify in some capacity on this?
Ambassador Pickering said he didn't need to interview. They already knew enough. This is a joke. Listen, Ambassador Pickering is the classic fixer at the State Department. He was never going to interview Hillary Clinton. When he found out that the real reason that Ambassador Stevens went to Benghazi was because of a specific request by Hillary Clinton, then Ambassador Stevens go there and set up quickly and make plans for setting up a special mission in Benghazi. That's why Chris Stevens was there. He wasn't there for the reason they gave in the report. He was there because the Secretary of State asked him to go there specifically. And in fact, when Pickering heard about it during his interview of Gregory Hitz, he flinched and said, does the 7th floor know about this? He was visibly shaken because the last thing Pickering wanted to do was to interview Hillary Clinton because he worried that his ticket inside the department might be forever canceled if he got tough with her. This is so disgraceful. The American people, I want to know what these clowns, I want to know what he and Admiral Mullen were paid to do this. I hope it was nothing, because it is worthless.
All right. So one of the things that we keep getting new little details, and one of the things that came out was that there was an Assistant Secretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs who was caught in an email. We recently got the email, which said she was describing a conversation she had just had with the Libyan ambassador. This was like one day after the attack, 1 or 2 days, and she says, The Libyan ambassador suggested that some of Gaddafi's old people might have been responsible for this, but I sort of set him straight. I told him that it was, this Islamic terrorist group, Ansar al-Sharia. That proves, to me, the smoking gun document, that just a couple of days, at least after this attack, they knew exactly what they were dealing with. And yet, a couple of days later, they send Susan Rice out to tell lies.
Look, Susan Rice is a smart cookie. She knew exactly what she was doing. First of all, she didn't have anything to do with the events of that night. She wasn't supervising anybody on the ground or in the department. They sent her out because Hillary Clinton wouldn't go.
That's right.
Hillary Clinton was smart enough to know that if she went out and sold that story, she'd be laughed at, and so she refused to do it. Susan Rice knowingly carried a fake brief for the administration. She paid the price. She's not going to be Secretary of State, and you know what? She can't be anything. And Nuland, the woman who used to be the spokesperson at the State Department, she wants to be Assistant Secretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs.
That ain't gonna happen.
News for you. She can forget that. It's time for her to go work someplace else. But the truth is, Brian, from the night of the attack, from within minutes of the attack, my client said, who was listening to real-time information on the ground and reading the emails from Benghazi and from Tripoli, they knew right away that this was not a spontaneous demonstration. They knew that it had absolutely nothing to do with some phony video. They knew that it was a terrorist attack. It was coordinated. There was concerted military action. The mortars were being fired. This was not a demonstration. It was a military attack by people who were well-trained. The administration knows this. They continue to lie about it, and it is an insult. It is an absolute insult to the death of 4 brave Americans in Benghazi. But this isn't going to stand. I'm going to tell you a little story.
Very quickly.
On the ground in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where the Special Forces are home, there is a revolution going on about not deploying any troops to try and save these people. They are furious at the ground level. The people who matter, the people on the ground at Fort Bragg, are furious at their commander-in-chief because he's not a commander-in-chief.
Well, it's a complicated story, and a lot of people say, I just don't understand all this and that, who said and she said. Let me just bring it, let me bottom line it for you. This is my new bottom line on this story, Joe. You ready?
Yep.
The truth does not require 12 revisions.
You got it.
That's it.
A lie goes on to be a lie until it's found not to be, and our great witnesses have started the process of showing that the president and everyone down under him has covered this up to protect themselves. It is a true embarrassment to the office of the president. Where is our president? What was he doing that night? Where is the hour-by-hour recitation of what he did that night? It doesn't exist because he slept while Americans died.
We got to leave it right there,
Thanks,
Joe DiGenova.
Joe.
Thank you so much.